I think we did it. Okay. Yeah, I think we're doing this. I guess we're rocking and rolling. Okay. Awesome. I can move myself too. Okay. Hi, my name is Amelia Pierce. I'm just hopping on here real quick. Hopefully, if this all goes to plan and my video and slides presentation are both working together, as I hope, I will be showing you a little bit of what I've learned and created during this online EDN 301 course with Dr. Kubasco. I feel like I've learned a lot about different standards for students and everything that really goes into lesson planning and being a teacher in general. So hopefully today I will be able to physically demonstrate to you guys some of those things I've learned, even though I don't have actual students here and I'm not in a classroom, I'm in my own house. Hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit of a brief look into what I would be doing if I was a teacher currently teaching a group of students. For this PowerPoint presentation right here, I'm going to be teaching a theoretical group of second grade students, second grade science, and we're going to be talking about the standard involving states of matter, including their properties and the changes that they go through. So, about to hop right into teacher mode. What I would do at the very beginning of the lesson would obviously be to welcome the students into the classroom if they weren't there previously. I would work on calming everyone down, having everyone sit, get ready to pay attention to the board and to pay attention to learn about a new, exciting, fun thing for them to learn about today. I really want to make learning fun for the students and something that they enjoy doing and not something that they dread doing. So hopefully they will enjoy this. Today I'm going to be telling you all about the states of matter. Now, moving on, can anyone tell me what this is right here? So in this moment, I would just kind of pause and wait for the students to look at the picture. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of students who are raising their hand immediately, really excited, want to answer first, and there are going to be other students who might not take this very seriously. So making sure I'm picking on the right students and giving everyone an opportunity to demonstrate what they think and what they learn, which is why I have a lot of different slides that are broken down like this, where they're more student answered centered rather than just stating facts on a slideshow. So after asking, what is this object? Hopefully I will have some students saying that they are ice cubes. And then I'll tell them, good job, I loved all your responses, good job. And then I'll move on to the next question. What are some ways that you can describe it? Now, these are some questions that really aid in that higher level learning, not just having students think of, oh yes, this is an ice cube, I see it every single day of my life, it's nothing important, but actually thinking of how can you describe this everyday object into words, because that's how we're going to be relating that back to understanding properties of different states of matter. So hopefully the students will give me answers like maybe cold, hard, it melts and then it's wet, different types of answers like that. Just taking it case by case with all my different students. Okay. And then I would move on to ask them some more descriptive questions. So if I feel that, especially if the students aren't really engaging very much in this activity, say they're not taking it very seriously, you can ask them specific questions. So I would ask them, what color is it? Wait for some answers. What temperature is it? Is it hard? Is it soft? Can you pick it up? Can it change shape? And then hopefully this will spur on even more questions for the students to be answering so they can tell me more about what they know about this everyday object. Okay, now we're starting all back around, doing the exact same thing over again. What is this object? Hopefully the students will be able to tell me that that looks like a puddle, it looks like water. For some ways that you can describe it, like what temperature is it, what temperature it looks like, what it feels like, can you pick it up really, hopefully all these questions will really emphasize to the student just to get their brains moving and their brains thinking. It's not too difficult to where they're overwhelmed at the very beginning of the lesson, but it's also not too extremely broad where it's just like, what is this item? It gives them a chance to really start using their brain in a not scary way, like just seeing what they know about the different topics. We would go on to ask some more of these descriptive questions, like what color is it, what temperature is it, can you pick it up, does it change shape, going through all of those different questions with my students. And then I would ask them, does anyone know what this change is called? Now obviously every single student has seen the difference between an ice cube in a glass of water and has seen ice cubes turning into water, but I really am looking for students to be able to tell me, oh, this changes where something is melting, this changes where something's going from cold to not as cold, it's going from solid to a liquid, it's going from something hard to something that's not hard. I'm looking for any type of higher level learning, descriptive answers to what these very kind of broad questions are. And so then also, not only asking just, do we know what this is called, melting, but do we know what the scientific term for this is, which would be a phase change. So, melting, like I said, and then a phase change. Okay, and then I would introduce the lesson, because that was a nice little icebreaker into the beginning of the lesson, just getting the kids warmed up. And I would tell them, today we're going to be talking about the properties of solids and liquids and the changes that they undergo. Okay, so I would go ahead and explain, I'll go ahead and move myself down here, that there are different types of matter, and those different types of matter have different characteristics. Now, these characteristics are called properties in science, and anytime I'm using big words like this or words I specifically have underlined, I'll probably make some time to ask my students, who can tell me what a characteristic is? Is that a descriptive word? Does that mean the properties that it has? Just really breaking down these big words so the students know exactly what I'm talking about. And then I'm also giving an example down at the bottom saying properties tell you how matter looks and how it feels. So descriptor words, just really emphasizing what we are looking for today from my students. So what are some examples of solids? I'm going to be asking the students if they know any examples of what something solid is before even going into the description and the explanation of solids, because I'm assuming that the students will come in with some sort of background information on what a solid is, what a liquid is, what a gas is. After taking in a lot of their examples, I'm hoping that they will have a lot ready to go for me. I'll give them some of my own examples. So today our examples of solids are a rock, another example would be a brick, another example would be Legos. We all have Legos that we play with at home, and an ice cube like we were talking about in the very beginning of the lesson. So hopefully I'll get some good engagement from the students on this part, and then even ask them, what do all of these items have in common? Okay, so the next question is, what are some properties of solids? So on the last slide, we were talking about some examples of solids. So can you tell me what some properties of those examples would be? So what some characteristics of those properties would be? So some of the ones that they have listed that they can be writing down in their notebooks to take notes. I really highly encourage students starting to take notes very, very early on in life. My brother, he's in 6th grade now, and he really, really still struggles with note-taking and being able to listen, watch the PowerPoint, and take notes at the same time. So I really want to stress learning how to take notes even from a very young age in a non-stressful environment. So the kids can take whichever notes they want, they can draw in there, they can write just small words like define shape, not having to write full sentences, and I really want to emphasize to them that these are their own notes, and that these notes should be something that they can look back on and use to help them study and to help them learn further. So the first example of a property would be that it has a defined shape. A solid is a thing that is one shape, and it should not change shape. Your Legos, they can't change shape. Even if you push them really hard and you squeeze them, they won't change shape. Another example would be hard. So one of our examples of a solid was a brick. When you feel a brick and you go tap, 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 it's very hard. When you look at your desks underneath you students, you go tap, 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 that's a hard desk, so that means it's a solid. A smooth could be another descriptor word. So if you're looking at something like a shiny coin or a really shiny rock, it could be nice and smooth on top. Another descriptor word, I'll move myself over here, it could also be rough. So if you feel something like the carpet underneath your desk, that's a little bit rough, but it's still a solid. It could be big, it could be small. There are lots of different properties of different types of solids. So liquids, what are some examples of liquids? Here's where I would Once again, give the students another opportunity to brainstorm some examples of what these liquids are, what some examples are, even just besides water. I feel like every student will want to say water. Hopefully they'll be able to branch out and say things more than just typical drinks that you drink every day. So here's one example is our typical glass of water, which can also, it can come in one form in the glass, but also if I spill my water on the ground, it's in a different form on the ground in the form of a puddle. Milk is another example of a liquid. Soda, which we should not be drinking because we're in second grade, right, is another example of a liquid. And right over here in the corner, I have like a picture of some chemicals. I'll tell them that a lot of times scientists, they work with a lot of different liquids and a lot of different chemicals. So what are some properties of these liquids? Some examples would be changing shape. So remember how we said, students, that properties of solids don't change shape. So no matter how hard I squeeze my Lego, or no matter how hard I grip onto my desk, it won't change shape. But if I take that glass of water, like I showed you in the last slide, and I pour it out, it's the same water, but now it's in a different shape. Okay, so some other properties that can vary between different types of liquids would be that it would be wet. I hope that most students would know this. It can also be kind of sticky, like we were talking about different types of chemicals. They can be liquid, but they can also still be sticky. Another example would be smooth. When you feel water pouring down on your hand, it'll probably feel pretty smooth on your hand, as long as that water is clean. Okay, so now we're going to be getting into phase changes, the big bulk of our lesson today, but I know you smart students can figure it out. So a phase is a state of matter. So like we were saying earlier, it's either a solid or a liquid. For this lesson, I'm not going to be putting in gas as much because it was not directly listed in the standard. So I'm going to be talking just more about the main phase changes between solids and liquids, especially considering that these are second graders. Okay, so phase changes are changes in those states of matter from solid to liquid or from liquid to solid. So an example, as I would tell my students, would be an ice cube melting into a little puddle of liquid water. Or it could be a puddle of liquid water freezing into an ice cube when you put it into the ice cube tray. And then here I would be asking my students, can anyone tell me which example, can anyone tell me the name of each one of these examples and what the scientific name would be? So for the top one, I would hope that one of the students would say melting because it's going from a solid ice cube to a liquid puddle. And then for the second one, it would be freezing because it's going, that's correct, because it's going from a liquid puddle to a solid ice cube. And it's a phase change. Wow, so smart. And the entire time I really hope that I am just encouraging the students, telling them how smart they are and how proud I am, because I firmly believe that the more that you positively affirm your students, the more that they're going to want to learn, and the more smart they'll feel, and the more smart that they'll become. So hopefully throughout my entire lesson, I am just telling them, good job, I'm so proud of you, like that's a great example, let's keep looking, let's keep learning more. Okay, so our next big question is what can cause these physical state changes or these phase changes? So, can anyone tell me the main causes of phase changes? And I'm going to be asking students this. If they seem to know the answer right off the bat, then I might just jump into the lesson. But if not, I might give them a few examples. Some of those examples would include leaving a popsicle outside, what would happen? Or if I take a glass of my favorite drink, my favorite juice, and I put it into the freezer, what would happen there as well? And what is causing those phase changes to happen? Okay, and right here, once I pop up this bubble as well, hopefully all of my students will know that temperature is the main cause of these physical changes. That's right, temperature. Once again, the positive affirmations for my students. Okay, so for heat, on a hot and sunny day, what would happen if I set my popsicle down on the front porch? And hopefully the students will be very engaged at this point, telling me like, you left your popsicle on the front porch? And hopefully they will tell me that it would melt. And I